discussion.
Thanks very much, Hazel. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. Well, when I was trying to think how I should begin this talk, it occurred to me that the safe way to begin would be to affirm that I'm opposed to sexual assault and sexual harassment. Get that out of the way. But I actually feel that I can't say that because I don't know what the terms mean anymore. They've been stretched to such an extent by the plethora of self-proclaimed victims who've been coming forward of late. And I feel that I don't want to lend even momentary lip service to what seems to me a truly bizarre social trend that doesn't distinguish between the innocuous and the criminal. And I especially don't want to lend support to a movement symbolized for me in the Me Too hashtag, but it's been going on for much longer, for years now, that operates on the assumption that a man is likely guilty if a woman says that he is. We're at a remarkable moment in our history in which the contradictions of feminist ideology, rather than causing the movement to lose momentum, actually seem to be causing it to gain momentum, and in which contempt for men has become so normalized that sweeping condemnations of all men are now perfectly acceptable in our public discourse. The contradiction in feminist ideology that I'm thinking of that's most striking is the assertion that women are fully as capable as men to exercise their talents in the public sphere, and that anyone who says otherwise is exhibiting the rankest bigotry and the most vile misogyny. We have that on the one hand, that assertion, coupled with displays by women of the exact opposite of a Victorian-era fragility of epic proportions. Recently in Canadian politics, we have had a so-called sexual harassment scandal in which a Manitoba MP, James Bazan, had to undergo an investigation by the Chief Human Resources Officer for the Canadian House of Commons, had to complete sensitivity training, and had to apologize repeatedly, both privately and publicly, to the Quebec MP, Sherry Romanado. Romanado is the parliamentary secretary to the Veterans Affairs Minister in the Liberal government. What did James Bazan do that was so terrible? According to the reports I read, he made one or possibly two off-color jokes 7 months ago. At a May 2nd fundraiser for Canadian veterans and first responders that both Bazan and Romanado attended, the two MPs were posing for a picture with a third person, and Bazan joked inappropriately, "This isn't my idea of a threesome." According to Romanado, he may also have said something else about making a sandwich with someone in the middle, but I don't know whether that was sexual in any way. According to Romanado, who's still tearful about the incident 7 months later, the remark was, quote, unwanted, quote, inappropriate, and, quote, humiliating. And she told the House of Commons that the comments were sexual in nature and, quote, have caused me great stress and have negatively affected my work environment. She later commented that, quote, people are afraid to live what I've had to live through. I find it concerning that someone with governmental responsibility for a file as serious as Veterans Affairs would allow herself, even for an hour, not to mention 7 months, to be distracted by such a trivial matter. Are women really such delicate reeds, such psychologically fragile entities that a few words uttered in jest in a public place and then repeatedly apologized for could wreak such emotional havoc? And it seems they are. As the Romanado story was working its way through the headlines, another woman in the United States was coming forward to tell of her years-old trauma this time in an article for The Atlantic magazine entitled, "I Believe Franken's Accusers," it's Al Franken, of course, "because he groped me too." This was published on December 6th. The author, Tina Dupuis, described how in 2009, at Barack Obama's presidential inauguration, she asked Democratic Senator Al Franken if she could have her picture taken with him. He agreed. They posed together, and that's when he groped her. Here's her description of the moment. Quote, "He immediately put his hand on my waist, grabbing a handful of flesh. I froze. Then he squeezed at least twice." The squeeze was so devastating, according to Dupuis, that her very personhood seemed to have been erased. She described the incident. "It shrunk me. It's like I was no longer a person, only ornamental. It said," this is still the squeeze, I guess, speaking, "You don't matter, and I do." Now, while it's true, of course, that not all the hashtag #MeToo allegations are this trivial, a fair number are. And it is astonishing that they should be allowed to take up so much public space and attention. Even more concerning is that the vast majority of these claims, serious and trivial, are merely allegations, not proven in any court of law. And this crucial fact seems easily forgotten at times of public reckoning, such as we're currently experiencing, when every day seems to bring fresh denunciations, more women coming forward, more men publicly called out, more affirmations of outrage, more abject apologies by men and promises to do better, and even more determined declarations that something is going to be done about it. This is surely a phenomenon of mass hysteria in which thousands of women claim to have been sexually terrorized by a range of behaviors that include lewd remarks, jokes, compliments, requests for dates, expressions of sexual interest, or fully clothed physical contact in public spaces. Even more startling is the number of people, men and women both, perfectly willing to punish accused men on a woman's say-so, even if it means sacrificing all the safeguards of a decent society, including the presumption of innocence, commitment to due process, the rule of law, and so on. This is a terrifying outcome, clearly related to decades of feminist theorizing, insisting that men are guilty if women say they are. On that basis, presumably, it is right to publicly shame men, to publish their names, to socially isolate them, to call them monsters, to drum them out of an industry, to pressure businesses to fire them, to circulate their names on databases of bad men, to publicize in detail allegations that haven't been investigated by police or prosecuted in a court of law, to create extrajudicial tribunals, to hear charges against them and to determine actions to be taken, and so on. An article in Vox magazine, this is just one example, by someone named Alex Press, stated it very well in the article's title. It's time to weaponize the whisper network. It sounds pretty scary, but the author was fully in favor. She wants mechanisms in place to encourage even more women to speak out publicly and to guarantee that, quote, the accused, not the accuser, will suffer when a case goes public. Only a woman confident that she will never be among the accused could be so enthusiastic about equating guilt with a public claim. This author also wanted to create, quote, a more formal body that compiles allegations, verifies their validity, and acts on that information. There's no recognition in the article of how difficult it is to verify allegations. It's taken centuries of jurisprudence to to refine our procedures for that kind of verification, and still innocent people, mostly innocent men, are regularly convicted and punished. No matter, this author wants some kind of community body to attempt to do just that, more expeditiously, one imagines, and with more overt protections for the female victim than our court system currently offers. There are many countries in the world where community justice is still a primary mode of dealing with a range of perceived offenses or social problems, where accused persons are surrounded in the street, denounced, heckled, even beaten and killed. No one is seriously recommending yet, I don't think, physical violence in cases of male sexual predation of women. But we are talking quite openly and with few reservations about the character assassination of accused men, about making it impossible for accused individuals to pursue their livelihoods or maintain their reputations, all while the pillars of our community stand by and applaud the angry mob. We can pretend it's a higher form of justice, but it's the same old brutal scapegoating mechanism our ancestors sought to abolish. Thanks.